It's sports time, and when it's time for sports, it's time for the Pressbox Chatter Show, your ultimate in-game for all things sports, all local. Each week, our guys are bringing you exclusive high school game content, in-depth insights, thrilling recaps, exciting previews, and taking you inside the pivotal plays of all of your favorite local high school teams like never before. So turn up those speakers, because it's no limits, no excuses. It's the Pressbox Chatter Show on WCLN.
And welcome into the WCLN studios for the first episode of Pressbox Chatter. Actually, renewal of the old show, Pressbox Chatter. I'm joined in studio. I'm Jeff Sauvel, and I'm joined in studio by the longtime voice of Dark Horse Football, Jonathan Griffin. I also have in today from Sampson middle school athletic director, and the son of Robert Hill. It's Robert Hill Jr. will be joining us, and also from the Sampson Independent and fellow Ohioan, good thing there, Brant Young joining us, who's done an excellent job as sports reporter for the SI. Thank you, gentlemen, for tuning in. I would like to thank everybody for joining us, Pressbox Chatter. We'll do this weekly at 6 o'clock, and you can catch us on Star Communication Channel 16, oldies1170.com, Mixler app, and Oldies 1170 AM, as long as Oldies 1170 AM is on. As it gets later in the year, that'll get a little shorter and shorter. And eventually, we should be on the oldies1170.com Facebook page, and eventually we'll be on the Sampson Independent's Facebook page as well, too. So a number of areas to get us. And this is a show, it'll be a sports show, Sampson County, Bladen County, all sports. It's just not a football show. A lot of sports activities going on, a lot of talented performers from the local schools and all the sports. In the fall sports, you've got football, you've got men's soccer, you've got volleyball, you have women's tennis, cross country, and women's golf. And we're going to touch on all those sports, give you some of the performers, some of the big games coming up. And with the weather turning nice, nothing better to do on a nice evening than to go attend, or an afternoon to attend a meet or match someplace. Cross country starts tomorrow, and those are very interesting events to go to. Tennis matches to see, football, volleyball, all going on. And again, go out and support the local schools and the kids that play. Welcome in, gentlemen.
Appreciate it.
Excited to be here. Did I see you somewhere this past Friday night?
Oh, for a long time down at Wallace.
I get a chance to see Sauvel's face more than just once a week. Boy, am I excited.
That was a long night.
It was a long night down at Wallace Friday.
Yes, that's right. And not just because of the rain and everything, too. It was just a tough night all around.
It was a tough night all the way around.
Yeah.
Brant, down from the SI with us. Kind of give us an idea of sports reporting on a Friday now. There's a lot of things to cover. And, of course, we can say the same thing whether it's a Tuesday volleyball or a Wednesday soccer. You know, coaches have game plans on how they want to do the game. What's your game plan? All right, let's pick one, either a Tuesday volleyball, a Wednesday soccer, or Friday football. What's the game plan?
So my preparation for that dates back to the week before. As the sports editor, it's not just my schedule that I'm looking at. It's, my two reporters that I have to manage their schedules and everything. I can only have them cover so many games. So going back to the week before, divvying all that kind of stuff up, I have one reporter that covers the Midway-Hopton areas. I have one reporter that covers the Union Heralds district, that area down there. And then I cover Clinton and Lakewood mostly, but you'll find me at all kinds of different places these days. This past week I was actually at Midway's game. Had a little bit of a snafu with my truck keys getting soaked in the rain there, and had to go get my truck Saturday morning. Had to come have a mobile locksmith come get me a new key for my truck.
Oh wow! So the keys wouldn't work.
Yeah, it has a chip inside, and the circuit board got fried in the rain on Friday night, and I couldn't start my truck. So
there's that.
Yeah. So word to the wise out there: if you're ever going to a game, make sure your keys and phone and everything are in a baggie. But yeah, if I'm covering a Tuesday game, I have a deadline early that morning, so that's a long day for me, and I've done it, and I don't mind it whatsoever because that just comes with the job. But I'll look at the schedule the week before, find out what game's going on for the week and everything, kind of divvy myself up from there. Friday nights, I'm not usually coming into the Clinton area until 3-4 o'clock, and then by the time game ends, if I'm doing game of the week coverage, I'm typing that all up, getting it sent off to our paginators by about 10:15. If it's one of my reporters doing it, then I'm editing their story in my truck, burning the midnight oil until about 10:15, getting that all sent off and making sure the pages all look good. And then usually I'm going home after that, except for Friday night when my truck keys were swimming in some water in my pocket, and I had to have my wife come get me. So.
And you said you were at Midway?
Yeah.
Well, so at least they got great concessions over there. You know, you can get the fries over there. They're pretty good.
He's putting in coach's hours.
I've oftentimes thought the longest or toughest job is a local sports reporter, just based off the number of schools we have in the area. Because you talk about volleyball, just Sampson County alone, you could have 7 schools participating.
Yep.
When you count the Bladen County schools, we're up to 9. And so it's a lot to cover in an evening. Same thing with soccer. You'd have 7 different schools playing at one night. So, going back when we used to know Fred Burgess, longtime sports editor of the Sampson Independent, people my ilk would remember him and what a great job he did. It's a tough job, and there's a lot. Computers and the Max Preps make it a little easier, but not a whole lot. There's a lot of time spent, and we appreciate the work you're doing, and Sampson Independent does.
Absolutely.
Sampson Independent sponsors this, and also Pressbox Chatter, sponsored by, we greatly appreciate it, Crumpler Plastic in Roseburg, and you'll hear from them shortly. Now, again, the show's called Pressbox Chatter, and there's a reason for that. All right, long time ago, a gentleman named Robert Hill Sr. ran a show like that, and we've brought in Robert Hill Jr. to talk about that. Since we're calling the show after your dad's, what was your dad's show about, Robert? And can you talk about how it started, how long it lasted, the format, get into whatever there.
Yeah, he did this, I guess it ran for about 10 years. He would call up coaches each week and want to talk to them about the previous week, what they did, what the score was, offense, defense, and then he'd want to talk to the coach about their upcoming opponent. And he did a little research, and he would ask them about what they were doing, different schemes, different players, how were they going to keep somebody in check and things like that. It was always funny. I was the football coach at Harold's Christian Academy, and he would call me up and say, hey, come do a show with me. And so we would literally sit on the front porch of my mom and dad's house in the porch furniture, and he'd say, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Harold's Christian Academy. And I'm looking out across the yard thinking, this isn't Harold's Christian Academy, Dad. This is just Mama's front yard. So
that's how you sell it.
But he wanted to make it as entertaining as he could, not just for those that were listening, but also the coach that he was talking to. And he put a lot of time into it. He enjoyed it. Like I said, it went on for about 10 years, and it was something he enjoyed doing.
Yeah, something even JV coaches back in the day got a chance to be on from time to time, and that was like we're big time now.
He would do JV coaches. He would do. He did Mr. Dale Johnson one time. Brought him on Pressbox Chatter. So he would do anybody to get him on the show.
Now back during that time, what was sort of his platform? Because social media wasn't like that.
Yeah, there was no social platform. We sat on the front porch, and he had a little tape recorder.
Okay, so it was audio only. So
it was audio only.
Or he had a cassette. He had a cassette recorder.
Yeah. And he had the little cassette recorder, and he would say, okay, let's take a break, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back in 30 seconds. And he'd hit the pause button, and we'd wait about 30 seconds, and he'd come back on and start talking again.
So where did he play that, though, like when he was playing?
He went in. It was when it was with WRZ.
Okay, yeah.
They put it in and played it over there. And they played it every Friday afternoon. They did the Bob Lewis football show, and then they played Pressbox Chatter.
Okay, yeah.
And there was a tagline that ended every show, and that tagline was...
ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. This is Robert Hill. We'll see you at the ball game.
We'll see you at the ball game. I can still hear him saying that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Now, your job, teaching is obviously part of your job. The other job that consumes amount of time is your middle school AD at Sampson Middle School. So and it will be more obviously on the varsity level, and it gets to the point we may have a JV team sometime that's undefeated. We may talk about that. But, as we get maybe toward the end of the middle school season, we might mention who's winning the middle school leagues and all. But what middle school sports are going on in the fall, and when do they start, and what days are they played?
Our athletic teams start up this week. Volleyball and soccer start up on Thursday. Volleyball, soccer play Monday, Thursday. Football plays on Wednesday. Okay. And games start at 4, except for October the 16th. That football game will be at 6 p.m.
There you go. All right. The importance of middle school athletics, just got a minute or two on that.
Well, obviously, if the more participation we have at the middle school level, the higher participation rate is going to be at the high school level. So we want kids to not specialize in a sport We want them to play as much as they can, play every sport if they can, and just be involved and make sure they're out moving and staying healthy and trying to keep our athletics going, not just at middle school but at high school as well.
Now, both of you guys have obviously coached at the high school level and at, maybe even different levels, but how important was it to you, and maybe both of you can speak on this, but to have a middle school system that sort of fed into, and I know we're speaking on football terms here because of what you guys have both coached, but how important was it to have, let's say, a middle school coach that was sort of on the same page in terms of at least certain things and feeding that into the high school? It seems like to me, and I've been no high school coach, but if my middle school was running, the same type of offense or something like that they were going to experience in the high school, then it almost makes my job easier and stuff like that. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
A lot of times what you get with the middle school kid is he's never played before.
Okay.
And
not even at the rec level.
Not even at the rec level.
Wow.
We'll get some that have never played before.
Wow.
They don't know how to put on equipment and things like that. So we do try to do some of the things that the high school does. We just can't use the same terminology.
Sure.
Because they have a hard time picking it up, understanding it. And we have to make it as simple as we can.
Yeah, run right, run left.
Make it as simple as we can for those kids that have never played before.
Yeah,
but
that's
it
true.
is important that we're all kind of doing the same things because, we have opponents that they do that kind of thing. Where
Sure.
their rec leagues
Yeah.
and their middle school teams are all together and they're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
There you go.
You
All
know, I can speak on that a little bit. I'm not from around here, but where I grew up,
OHIO.
go Bucks, baby. So whenever I was growing up, we ran the same pro-con offense. So tight end on the left, tight end on the right, and that was your entire single back or I formation offense from the time you were playing flag football all the way through 8th grade. And it worked out well because you fed right into the high school level who was running the same exact offense, just as he said, different names. Except for whenever I got to high school, we got a brand new head coach who had never coached before, and he brought something called the spread offense to our little town. And so I was the center, so I was used to hiking the ball to my quarterback that I had grown up with.
Just not in
same way.
shotgun?
Yeah, so I had to switch to a shotgun snap, and there's highlights, or I guess lowlights, of me just launching it over his head for my entire freshman season because of that changeup. So I think it's very important to have, the same offense implemented at lower levels, so that way when they do hit high school years, they're not making a massive change to something like that.
Well, I can tell you, you've only been in Clinton now for, or been visiting Clinton and working at SI for a little over a year and a half or more, or something like that, I think is what you were telling us. Well, anybody who's been around all of these high school schools, all these high school schools, listen to me, all these high schools have noticed a significant change in the offensive styles. Hobton with Coach Silas. Hobton, you were a head coach at Hobton. You guys won't run in 4 and 5 wide with that, but Silas is throwing the ball just about every single time. Clinton is being in the spread, and until their last coach came about, they were running the full house with Bob Lewis. That was what made his. He won several state titles running in that. But it's almost like nowadays, if you're not running some semblance of some type of spread formation, you're almost behind the time, especially if you play them out in the West. And that was what a lot of the East teams found out.
That's what a lot of kids see on TV.
Yeah.
And that's what they want to be a part of.
Yeah, well, nobody this day wants to line. You don't have a wide receivers that wants to line up and just block, 30, 40 times a game.
They want to do what they see on TV.
Yeah. And I wrote a column about that not too long ago. I love Sampson County football because it's what I grew up playing. It's, hard-nosed football. Whenever I took this job and I was learning all the storylines and everything, one thing I found out was Coach Salas actually coached down at Valdosta State with Mike Leach back in '93, and that's where he learned the air raid offense was from the guy who made it famous for everybody.
Mike Leach, man.
Good old
Gosh.
Mike Leach. But Lakewood's even starting to adopt that. Midway's starting to pass the ball a little bit more now, so I think it might be towards the end of times for running the ball, unfortunately, as much as I hate to hear that.
Well, teams run balance. They just don't do it in the same formations. But, Saville, that may be a good segue into going into some of the football. But before we did that, I did want to mention about your dad. I had an opportunity, obviously, when I was in high school. So I was at Clinton from 2000, 2004. And I'll never forget it. There was a kicker, I think, it was, my graduating class, is Gabriel Geraldo. I think Saville remembers him. And so Gabrielle and I were in the same class, and Gabrielle played soccer, and it's always been sort of a tradition at Clinton. It's like, the soccer players would play Monday through Thursday and Friday nights. They would come out there and, there was one day he didn't have any soccer, and he was like, he said, I want to go out and kick some. He said, I said, well, Gabrielle, I said, I'll go out there and hold for you. Everybody else is busy doing everything else. I'll go out there and hold for you. I wasn't a member of the football team. And he was like, okay. And I go out there and I'm holding for him. And then I said, well, man, you care if I kick a couple? And he was like, no, I don't care. I was like, okay. And after a couple times of doing that, here come a older gentleman, riding on a three-wheeled golf cart, a green golf cart coming out of the left. And he comes up, and I'm backing up now. I'm going my 2 steps and or 3 steps and 2 over, and he goes, "What you guys doing?" I said, "Well, hey, Coach Hill, we're out here kicking. Are you one of my kickers, boy?" I was, well, no, sir. He's like, then why are you kicking on my field? he said, I need him. He said, if you want to hold for him, that's fine. He said, but I don't need you kicking. I need him kicking on Friday nights. And I was like, yes, sir. And that was,
and I'm sure he said it just like that.
I mean, well, yes, this is a clean family show, but it was one of those things where it was like, okay, and we had always heard about your dad being such a great players coach. Everybody would talk about how much they loved him and loved playing for him, but he was an intimidating guy too.
He was.
And when he rode up on that golf cart, and I thought, uh-oh, you have messed up now. Like, you decided to get greedy and thought, well, I'll kick a couple. And
he enjoyed the X's and O's of the game.
Yeah.
But what he enjoyed most was the relationships that he made with the kids and the players.
Yeah.
And getting to know them.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Appreciate Robert. Robert, you can stay the whole night. Brant, you can stay the whole time too. We'll have typically our format will be we'll go a segment on football, a segment on soccer, a segment on volleyball, and throw and other sports in there too, cross country, tennis, and golf, which a lot of them are just starting up in terms of their conference matches this week. And we're going to have an interview next week. We're going to have an AD's interview talking about some of the top subjects in high school athletics today. We're going to talk about realignment and NIL. And we're going to have Travis Pate from West Bladen and Brad Spell from Clinton High doing that. Got Dan Hines lined up from Mintz Christian Academy, the AD and head volleyball coach there, talking about his program.
Yeah, their volleyball program has been
on
rolling.
fire.
Yeah, that's been a good program there. So we'll come back. We're going to hit on our first segment, which will be the Sampson County football, and we'll do that next. You're on Pressbox Chatter, brought to you by the Sampson Independent and Crumpler Plastic of Roseboro. Thanks for joining us this evening.
The Pressbox Chatter brought to you in part by Crumpler Plastic Pipe Incorporated, agricultural drain systems, constructed wetlands, septic sewer drain pipes. For more information, call 910-525-4046 or log on to the website www.cpp-pipe.com.
All right, welcome back to Pressbox Chatter here on Oldies 1170 AM, Star Communication Channel 16, oldies1170.com, the Mixler app. Eventually we'll be on the SI Facebook, Sampson Independent Facebook too. Got Brant Young from the Sampson Independent, Robert Hill Jr. from Sampson Middle School, AD there, and Jonathan Griffin, the voice of Dark Horse Football. We're talking all things Bladen County and Sampson County, and we're going to head into football here first. And our 8 teams that we cover, the 6 in Sampson County and then the 2 in Bladen County. Maybe kind of a tough start here out of conference so far. Conference games will start here in a few more weeks. But non-conference so far, our 8 teams are combined 5-11. Now, if you don't count the 2 games where East Bladen beat West Bladen and Midway beat Hopton, we're 3-9. So kind of a slow start. Obviously, a few more weeks to rectify some things. Some of the teams that you guys, I'm sure, will talk about are kind of young. And we'll take it with our football here first.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll start out with where Sauvel and I were Friday night. And, of course, Robert, you were there as well with having your son on the football team. Clinton, in a weather-delayed, to say the least, loss to Wallace Rose Hill. And I tell you, it's been a struggle for the Dark Horses the first couple of games. Coach Boykin in his first year, they're filling some things out. I know you probably get a little bit of inside info with your boy being on the team, but they've struggled to find their identity. And just as they started to find some identity a little bit offensively against Wallace, then their quarterback Patrick goes down with what seemed to be a concussion, so he was out. And then it's been a struggle. And they host Lumberton this upcoming Friday, so we hope everybody will come out to Dark Horse Stadium, support the kids' first home game. Lumberton has got they're 1-0. They played Fairmont, so in conference foe. They beat them 35-0, then had a bye week. Interesting enough, you and I were talking about second week bye weeks are kind of an unfortunate.
Never liked second week. Pender had one. There's a couple other schools around us that had that. So Harrell's had one second week bye week. Just not a fan of the second, but you got to take it when you get it.
But again, Lumberton, the Dark Horses beat Lumberton last year. Lumberton comes in 339 total rushing yards on the week one. They averaged 7.7 yards a carry. They had one back. His name's Reggie Bush. I don't know. Like, it's funny, Brant, you put that on our notes here that no, you were not making that up, but yet I still asked you, were you making that up when we were off air, because it's funny. Reggie Bush, though, he had 28 carries for 210 yards, so that's pretty cool. So Clinton's going to have it does not get any easier. And Robert, what are some of the things that your boys talk to you about what they're doing in practice to try to just build some confidence?
Well, one thing about Clinton right now is, and no matter what level it is unheard of that you have a football team at a high school level that only has one returning starter.
Yeah, well, that's true.
And that's what we have.
Was that Jaden Williams?
That was Jaden
Williams. Yeah, and he led the team last year in tackles.
And so when you have one returning starter and you've got to, basically start from scratch, it makes it tough. And my oldest son, he does play, and he comes home and he says, "Daddy, we're just working hard and we're trying to do exactly what Coach tells us to do." And he knew going into this year. I knew going into this year. I think everybody knew going into this year. This was going to be a hard year.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to get turned around, but I think they've got a lot of work to do, and everybody's going to have to buy into it.
Yeah. And Johnny's a good guy. We do the coaches show on Monday nights. We didn't have one this past Monday. They had practice, obviously, and it was Labor Day, but we'll be back again next Monday. But it just in the short time I've had a chance, he's a true Clinton guy, so he's going to stick with everything Clinton's just brought up to be: hard-nosed football, a lot of discipline, and hopefully things will get better. And we know they'll get better from there. And Salvo, do you want to just jump in till we go to Bladen County and stay in order here?
Well, it was DJ Baggett, Demarius Pugh, Ryan McNeil, Kelvin Yare. Some of the people you got to lead on. And it's just a matter of trying to get better each week, and that's the case with the Dark Horses right now. You got a young team, new staff, and you could kind of transition and just say the same thing when you go to West Bladen. West Bladen with Preston Worley, the new head coach down there. It has been a struggle for them the first 2 weeks as well too. A very young team. We saw them at the Jamboree. Very kind of undersized team as well, as they've lost two games. And very lopsided scores of South Columbus and East Bladen, and they'll be at West Columbus, who is 0-1. There's another second week bye team. They'll be at West Columbus, who's 0-1 this Friday, and they had to finish up their game from last Friday. They finished it up this past Monday against county rival East Bladen. East Bladen won again 42-8 there. One thing I did see, if you get one positive for West Bladen, their 2 games, of all the teams that had stats listed, Justin Spalding was the leading tackler of any team I saw of the 8 that we have, with 23 tackles, and Luke Pate, a safety, had 16 tackles.
23 tackles through 2 games?
2 games,
That's pretty impressive.
That's impressive.
Well, if you think about it, just to point it out, we talked about the returning Jaden Williams for Clinton. Right. He led Clinton in tackles last year. Of course, now I know they had a bunch of different people, but he had 53 in the whole season, and this guy's got 23 for West Bladen. He is the machine for that defense.
And East Bladen comes in with obviously the win over West Bladen, 42-8. They lost to North Brunswick the first game, 48-0. So we're going to get a test this week against Ashley. Saw Ashley in their jamboree down at West Brunswick, and Ashley played Wallace in that jamboree. And Ashley has a decent team, so East Bladen will have a handful this week, and then the following week after that they go to James Keenan. So they host Ashley, and then they're at James Keenan the next 2 weeks. So they've got two tough games. One-on-one Coach Priest down at East Bladen.
Yeah, always Coach Priest is a guy who came back from some illnesses that he's dealt with. He's always been a friend of the program every time we've had a chance to call games. East Bladen, for folks that don't remember, were in the conference and then dropped back down to the 1A level.
Every year I've been here since '89, we played East Bladen up until they dropped down the conference.
Yeah, I kind of missed that, miss going over there and then them coming back. But Coach Priest and his program's always well run. And you talked about James Keenan. We can go into Midway. Midway had a tough a tough time against James Keenan this past Friday. We really thought Midway looked well during the Jamboree. They were one of my dark horse sleepers, I guess, to potentially have one of the best records in the conference. And then
came out
for
and
the
had a
county
good game against Midway, or against
Hampton,
defeated
34 to nothing.
Tanner Williams, that game was 15 to 23, 169 yards, 3 TDs. Follow that up, you go to Keenan, a little different animal, and he was 3 of 10 with 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Blue had 94 yards against Hopton, ended up having 60 yards against Keenan. So Wyatt Scott's their leading tackler. He's got 18 tackles so far, and Wesley, two freshmen, contributed a lot on that. They had a lot of nice-sized boys. They'll be at North Johnston this week. North Johnston, if I think correctly, was 1-1 with there. And we saw them last year. They're a little scrappy group up there, and so they'll be heading to North Johnston this Friday. But a tough one against Keenan. The good people at Bucksweep Sports Podcast and 810 Sports, their game of the week this week is Midway's last opponent, James Keenan, who will face next week's dark horse opponent, Whiteville. Even though we don't cover James Keenan and Whiteville, there's certain times Friday comes, you want to see all your local schools. Yeah. And there's always, I wonder how this game turned out. And that's going to be one of those games I want to look at to see Whiteville at James Keenan. Yeah. That game is this Friday at Keenan. So we'll see how that goes.
That'll be definitely a big one right there, because I think both of those schools are 2-0 going into that one.
And yeah, they are. And Midway again at North Johnston this week, and then they'll a week after that head to the next team we'll talk about, the undefeated team, the only undefeated team we have in conference in the county, in both counties, and that's the Lakewood Leopards, who currently stand at 2-0.
Yeah, Lakewood. You look at Lakewood. They started off with Spring Creek. They defeated them 60-6. Then they had Kip Pride 33-8. So not the most. Not the toughest schedule early on, but
they're going to follow up with Lejeune, who's 0-1.
Oh gosh,
and Lejeune's been a struggle. So their first three again. You got to play the people you play. It's on your schedule,
in front of you.
That's no fault to Coach John Holt and all. They've outscored them 93-14. They've taken care of business. They've taken care of business solidly.
And I've seen what Lakewood's got to work with, because I've obviously seen their middle school team the last 2 or 3 years, and they have been really, really strong.
Pumping out some athletes.
Their middle school team could probably have beaten some of the JV teams around here.
You know, you look at it, Salvo, you and I talked about it during the Jamboree. Their quarterback, Rylan Godbold, he's 7 of 8 through 2 games for 73 yards, completing 86% of his passes with 1 touchdown, no picks.
The one dimension.
But I know I'm getting into it. Getting into it. He's got 10 carries through 2 games for 104 yards, 3 touchdowns. Salvo, you said that last year he barely had, I don't know how many, through the whole year he didn't have
nothing. Yeah,
and we saw in the Jamboree a little bit that he was going to run a little bit more, and that could be a key for opening things up for him, because you look at, he's got some great backs. He's got Carr, but then you look at Calvin Lacewell, he's got 169 yards on 16 carries and 3 touchdowns through 2 games.
He had around 1,000 last year as a freshman.
So he's got some things, but it's interesting to see what Coach is doing over there at Lakewood, and he's allowing Godbold to really run it some, and that's creating an additional dynamic for that offense to be defended against.
And one thing that, because I covered that 60-6 game against Spring Creek, my biggest takeaway from it was just how their defense swarmed to the ball. If that ball was in the air or the running back had the ball, whatever it was, there was 11 hats on that football from the Leopards. It wasn't a cornerback taking on a wide receiver out in the open. It was that cornerback wrapping him up and the other 10 guys coming to make that play. So I think, with my little amount of experience here so far, I think Lakewood is my dark horse team to put on one of the best shows in the county this year, just because of Godbold's a lanky quarterback. He's 6'3", and he has an arm if he needs it, but they just have so many weapons on the ground. So you combine that with how just swarming their defense is, and they can suffocate a team very fast and get away very fast. And they've had I think 3 or 4 defensive touchdowns through 2 games. And like you said, you can only play who's on your schedule. And I didn't see the Kip game, but so far they're just looking like they will just have their way with teams.
That fan base in Roseboro, they get up for their home games. I mean, if you've ever seen some of their home games,
they've got good support.
They've got really good support, and they're itching for wins. I guess we could transition to. We want to talk.
Deshaun Carr for Lakewood and Aiden Blackwell. They're 2. It's junior. Deshaun's a junior and Aiden's a sophomore. They're 2.
Yeah, so they got defenders. The cupboard is not bare over there for Coach Holt.
It's a young group. Now Lejeune this week. Midway then the week after
That'll
that.
be their first test.
And then Red Springs after that. So a couple of Southeastern Athletic Conference teams. Of course, you look at Red Springs, say they're 0-2, but when you've played Douglas Byrd, that's one of their losses, who was the state runner-up last year in the 3A classification. No shame in that. So we'll see after Lejeune. We'll get to Midway, and then Red Springs coming up for the Lakewood Leopards. But a good start for John Holt and his staff. Telfer Simpson running the defense over there.
Yeah,
Always
good
does
old
a good
Telfer.
job. We'll transition next then we'll go to Hopton and Union, two more Sampson County schools. And Hopton comes in now 0-2. They lost 34-0 to Midway, 42-20 to Trask. Really, with Hopton up there, it's a lot of transition. Cole Weeks, they're all everything quarterback for who knows how many years. Threw for 3,443 yards last year. He's gone. They lost a couple other players to transfers. So it's a lot of starting over on offense up there. And I think that's obviously contributed to the slow start. They'll host East Columbus, who's 0-1, so it'll be a good chance here for Hopton this Friday.
Yeah, they get a chance to get things going, and you got to find a way to build some confidence. Salvo and I thought during the Jamboree, our conversation was more about defense because that's where they had been lacking. They've been able to score points since Silas took over there because a lot of schools at that level just don't see that type of throw it around 40, 50 times a game. We've had the pleasure of covering some of those games that run about 4 hours. You talk about long nights. Oh man, what was it?
Like the Pender game last year.
Well, we won't even count that one, but we're talking about that one. Although that would have been a long game, but it was Hopton Midway game. A couple years ago. That was crazy, but yeah, just and now
so far we're only getting 20 points through 2 games.
Yeah,
10 points a game.
That's
a
surprising.
Low for Joe
That's
Silas
surprising.
To Hopton,
So
it's a work in progress with a new quarterback and new receivers and going through his passing game. And down at Union, Mark Oates still trying to build a program down there. Suffered a loss to the American Leadership Academy of Johnson County, 59-0, and then lost to Beargrass Charter. They finished that game up this past Monday, 38-16. They face the unenviable task of traveling to Pender this week. Pender's 1-0. Pender's a pretty good squad.
Yeah, they are.
So the big thing there is just building numbers. Mark Oates Coach Oates is a good coach. He was really excited about the numbers they had this year. He had 26 at their first workout and averaged over 30-something the whole time. And last year, the first workout, he had 12. And so, a lot of them are, you look at the roster we had at the Jamboree, a lot of them are freshmen and sophomores. And so wins may be few and far, but it's a matter of keeping them together and keeping them out there and keeping them interested. He's going to try to do a couple JV games if numbers are there later on. You need to get some of the players' experience who maybe not getting much varsity experience. There's going to be a work in progress.
The more reps they get, the better they're going to be.
Yeah, for sure. And the people, anybody that's in that area, I mean, you Coach Oates, obviously being a Clinton guy, but he's down there in Union. He's got a process. You just have to trust that because it's not exactly. I remember back in the day that even when I was in school, that Union used to have some good athletes, but things just like everything else with offenses, you adapt, and some people it helps intensify and makes them better, and some it kind of hurts programs. But Union, like to Sal's point, his very first year, I mean, they were struggling to be able to field enough to not have to play all 11 guys and just turn them around, and now he's almost doubled that with the kids. So. I feel like he's doing a good job. Wins and losses aside, he's doing a good job to try to build it from what essentially was the ground up.
Yeah, and I've seen game coverage from Union's 2 games, and it is a legitimate night and day difference from their week 1 game until last night. Obviously, their game from Friday got pushed back until last night, but the way that they carried themselves through the game week 1 and how they carried themselves to get their first score last night of the season and the game was just night and day difference. They look like a team that is there to play football. They're there to have their brothers' backs out on the field. They're coming together as an actual squad. I wouldn't put it past them to shock the world a couple times this year and put together a couple good drives here and there, a couple takeaways where it counted, and make good plays to be able to win a couple games this year. If they build on this week going into later this week, I guess, because they play Pender on Friday. If they just continue building on that, I think Union puts it together a much better team than this county's seen in quite a while for that school.
Yeah.
And then lastly, Harrell's, another game got pushed back. Harrell's played Wayne Christian yesterday at Wayne and Goldsboro and defeated Wayne 23-7, and so they're now 1-1, even the record at 1-1. Demetrius Jones so far, 164 yards rushing through 2 weeks. Xander Garcia, Jesse Smith, a couple of juniors leading the defensive work there. Biggest thing for Harrell so far is 6 turnovers through 2 games. They had 4 turnovers, 3 in the first half against Covenant Day, got them in a hole. A couple were kicks they've dropped in punt return, and then last night they did cut that down to 2 turnovers, but limiting turnovers would be the big thing there with the Heralds. They will host Wake Prep Academy this week. Wake comes in also at 1-1. Football has struggled a little bit non-conference wise. One sport that has not struggled is volleyball. A lot of volleyball success. We'll talk about that next here on Pressbox Chatter, sponsored by Crumpler Plastic.
The Pressbox Chatter brought to you in part by Crumpler Plastic Pipe Incorporated, agricultural drain systems, constructed wetlands, septic sewer drain pipes. For more information, call 910-525-4046 or log on to the website www.cpp-pipe.com.
You're back here at Pressbox Chatter with Jonathan Griffin, Robert Hill, Brant Young, and I'm Jeff Sobel. Thanks for tuning in this evening. And we'll be live every Tuesday here on oldies1170.com, the Mixler app, Star Communication Channel 16, and Oldies 1170 AM, and eventually on the Sampson Independent Facebook page. And I believe we're on 1170's Facebook page. Again, brought to you by Crumpler Plastic and the Sampson Independent. Again, thanks for listening. And we're going to transition now into volleyball.
This is the segment of the show where my wife tunes in.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, she loves her volleyball. Sacrificed an ACO with it. Church league.
No, church league stuff.
Church league.
We're going to start off with, and when you go to the volleyball again, and Brant knows this well because he got a Tuesday night or a Thursday night, and he's got 6 Sampson County schools potentially to cover.
Wow.
If they're not playing each other. And you got the 2 Bladen County schools we'll talk on as well, too. Let's start with the kind of the dynasty, you might say, down at Mintz Christian Academy. Mintz Christian Academy, talked to Dan Hines a little bit today. We're going to get lined up for an interview again here in a couple of weeks. He's been the head coach since Mintz came into existence, and he's also the athletic director. Since the 2017 year, volleyball year to today, from 2017 to today, Mintz is 107. 100 wins and 7 losses since 2017. Last year they were 30-1. The only loss came in a national tournament in Ohio. They lost to a team from Anderson, Indiana. And so far this year they're 8-0, 4-0 conference. They've lost only 3 sets in 8 games. Last year they lost Gabby Waters and Sierra Ellis. That was their two main players. They're coming back this year, and this will be a theme as we go through this. To give a pop quiz here at the end, gentlemen. The 4 teams we're going to highlight first, who've all got sterling records. I want to see if we can pick up on the theme. But for Mint so far this year, Abby Walters, a junior, Mackenzie Small, senior, Sarah Millen, a senior, Aubrey Herring, a junior, Mackenzie Street, a sophomore, leading the way. They're home this Thursday against Liberty Christian. Again, they've lost 3 sets in 8 games so far. We're going to talk about a big game they got next Monday coming up. We'll save that here for a little bit. Yeah. But Mint's leading the way right now, 8-0, coming off a 30-1 record last year.
It's pretty impressive. I mean, thinking about just the amount of games that they've played to only have those losses that they've had, and you think about Mintz as being such a small school and don't have some of the power sports like your football and stuff, but their volleyball's drawing people in. I mean, they're going to play on national levels, like you said, and that's pretty impressive.
And I don't think they shy away from playing anybody.
Oh no, I wouldn't think so. Not with that record.
Yeah, they lost 4 sets all of last year in that 30-1 season. Yeah, they picked up Jacksonville Christian Academy, I think it was, this year. They had them, and then we'll talk about a game they got next Monday, which if you're a volleyball fan might be a game to go to here locally. We'll get to that here shortly. So Mintz starting off 8-0, 4-0 in conference. Another team, Coach Russell Jones up at Hopton, they have already matched their win total of all of last year. Last year they were 6-12. This year they've gotten off to a 6-0 stellar start. They've lost only 1 set in 6 games. They played today against Jones, and then Wednesday they're at that favorite school, ALAJ, American Leadership Academy at Johnston County. And for Hopton, Xana Hare, a sophomore, Cassie Driver, a junior, Lola Warren, a junior, Miley McClam, a junior. They have only one senior on their team.
What
So
do we
good
got,
start for Hopton. Rosewood, of course, is going to be the team to beat in that conference. But Hopton's off to a good start here.
We got some of those Mount Vernon girls over there playing with
so.
Cassie, and then you've got
think so.
Ariana over there as the assistant. So you got shout out there to Mount Vernon Church. But that's the Hopton is performing well. Coach Jones, like everybody keeps wondering, like you talk about somebody who every time you think he's about ready to hang it up, he comes back. He's a cat.
Going.
He's a cat. He's had 9 lives.
He's got some experience under his belt.
He does, doesn't he? And maybe it's a good reason he decided to come back for this one with the team that he's got this year. You can be pretty excited in the way that they're playing. If you haven't had a chance to go check out all these volleyball teams, you hadn't had a chance to go check out a game. If you got daughters and anybody, I need to take my 2 girls to go watch some volleyball with these. But I'm sure you're in for a treat, and for anybody that's playing.
Then Midway is a level of consistency. It's up there. Susan Clark, the head coach. Last year they went to the Eastern Championship before bowing out. They had a 24-5 record last year. Bella Barefoot and Morgan Hall were 2 of their main keys last year. This year they're off to a 3-2 start. But you talk about scheduling tough. The South Johnson, Cape Fear tomorrow, if you want a game to see, Midway will host Cape Fear. Cape Fear comes in at 4-3, and Midway dropped a 5-set match at Cape Fear August 19th. So that game will be at Midway tomorrow, and Coach Clark, again, not shy about scheduling tough. Kaylin Morin, junior, Grayson Hall, a junior, and Kaylin Hewlett, a sophomore, kind of leading the way right now for a Midway team who, again, will be, I would say, the conference favorites going into the conference play. Conference play for volleyball will start latter part of next week or the week after. I think it's about September 12th. I think
it's about the week after.
Yeah.
Well, what was it? What did you say, Sabo? I think it said for all the troubles that football has had early on, the county, for all the teams that are in Sampson County, the volleyball has been the opposite. They've been playing some strong volleyball.
And then we'll come into Clinton High. Sheila Davidson, longtime coach at Lakewood, took a year or so off, and then she's back now at Clinton High, and the Dark Horses are out to a very strong 6-1 start, including in that stretch is beating an East Duplin team who's currently 5-1 and a North Johnston team who is currently 5-2. Their one loss, Mintz Christian Academy, a 3-1 loss there. And so again, if you want to catch a good volleyball game tomorrow, Midway at home against Cape Fear. Next Monday, Mintz makes the return trip to Clinton High.
That will be a big
for the
one.
game there.
Oh, yeah.
That will be a big one.
Hey, can I get a coach's pass to get in there? As the former AD, do you have any strings over there?
I might have something. I don't know.
All right.
Layla Carter, well, you might want to talk more about the Clinton High because I believe you've seen them. So, Brant, I'll give it to you, some of the stars for Clinton High.
Yeah, so speaking on that one loss to Mintz here before I talk about some of their players, I talked to Sheila last week after one of their games about that loss to Mintz, and in Sheila's words herself, they won't play a better defensive team than Mintz Christian Academy the rest of this season. She said that she would put that defense up against any school in the state as when it comes to volleyball because of how good they are. But 2 of their players that I've seen so far, they have a great front court. It's Nellie Bass and Layla Carter, I believe. One's a sophomore, one's a freshman, and they nothing gets by them seemingly. I went to their first game against Lakewood, and Lakewood was just struggling all night. Those 2 were above the net consistently, and they're both between 5'10" and 6 foot. So it doesn't take much for them to get above the net, and when they do, good luck because you're not really getting anything over that. But they've lost 6 sets so far this year, but whenever I was talking to Sheila last week, she's watching tape on these teams that she's playing and recognizing what their strengths are. So the team that they played last week, their strength was serves, and they couldn't serve the ball to save their life against Clinton because they were just taking that away. So not only is it a testament to the players themselves, but Sheila has a great program going on there, and we're in for some great volleyball in this area once conference play starts.
I think we could find 2 other people to go challenge some of these schools between us 4.
Yeah.
We'll go get 2 other people and
spiked in our face.
Robert, we'll let you serve.
Let me serve. Can I do it underhanded?
Yeah, hey man, whatever gets it over the net.
Arizona Tyndall, a junior, Brittany Britt, a freshman, Cameron Marshburn, a junior, Kaylee Parrish, the lone senior there mentioned, out of the big players for Clinton. And again, your tests there, all those teams we just mentioned, the one key is they're all very what?
Young.
They're all very young, yes. All these teams are very young, so you've got some volleyball, quality volleyball that's going to be around for the next couple years. West Bladen will be the other team in the Southeastern Athletic Conference who might make a little noise. Clinton's 6-1 right now, not because it's all non-conference. Midway 3-2. West Bladen checks in currently at 3-6. Natalie Sykes has been their leader so far this year. As you look at the rest of the conference, Red Springs, Fairmont, and St. Paul's just have one win between the three so far. So when it gets Southeastern Athletic Conference,
top-heavy conference.
It's going to come down to Midway, and Clinton and West Bladen there. East Bladen checks in so far at 3-3, and they'll start Waccamaw Conference play in a couple weeks. Lakewood right now at 1-7, and Union at 0-7. That's our volleyball roundup. We'll come back with our last segment, and we'll talk a little soccer and also get into touch on tennis, cross country, and women's golf coming up. This is a Pressbox Chatter Show brought to you by Crumpler Plastic. Thanks for joining us here on Oldies 1170 and Star Communications 16.
The Pressbox Chatter brought to you in part by Crumpler Plastic Pipe Incorporated, agricultural drain systems, constructed wetlands, septic sewer drain pipes. For more information, call 910-525-4046 or log on to the website www.cpp-pipe.com.
Welcome back to the Pressbox Chatter Show here on Oldies 1170 AM, Star Communications 16. And for our last segment, we're going to come in and bring in a little tennis, cross country, women's golf, and then mostly soccer this last segment. And I'm not trying to shortchange the tennis, cross country, and women's golf, but for example, tennis, cross country, their first conference meets will be this week. It's tomorrow. The Southeastern Athletic Conference will be at Midway at 3 o'clock. Fine day to go out and watch that. It'd be a nice day to run tomorrow. Women's golf has a match tomorrow at Timberlake between Clinton, Hopton, Midway, and Trask. They did have one match last week. Last week it was with Hopton, Midway, Clinton, and Fairmont. And Clinton won it with a total score of 174. Hopton right behind at 178, and Midway at 185. Larkin Best with a 55 for Clinton. She had co-medalist honors.
Oh, that's cool.
Ella Rice had a 57 for Hopton. Carly Brooke Wade had a 57. And for Midway, Carly Boyer and Ava Hargrove had a 61.
So they only play 9 holes for their matches.
Yes,
okay. I was going to say, because they are, look out of the way, Jim Furyk with your 58, and Larkin Best with a 55.
Now, again, volleyball is a couple weeks before they start conference play. Football, it's October. Soccer, it's the end of the month. Tennis, they're going to start conference play today. West Bladen at 3-1 hosts St. Paul's, and then Thursday, West Bladen is at Clinton High. Clinton High comes in at 2-3. So Southeastern Athletic Conference tennis play starts this week. Harrell's in tennis is at 3-3, and they have Epiphany. They visit Epiphany here, and then they got Village Christian coming up. So Harrell's at 3-3.
I thought you had said they had an Epiphany.
No, they don't have an Epiphany out of New Bern. Let's transition to soccer. And our last segment will be on soccer. And again, the counties had a good start in some areas with soccer here. And we'll start with the Dark Horses, who are a perfect 6-0.
Yeah, Max Preps has Clinton Soccer led under Brad Spell as the 156th team in the country. Now that may not sound all that impressive, but if you think about how many soccer teams there are at a high school level in the country, that's pretty impressive. I think we talked to Brad during the Jamboree, and he said that of all the teams that he's been doing this, about 25 years in now that he's been coaching?
26, yeah.
26, yeah. That he said that he would put this up with one of the top 3 teams that he's ever had, and he's had one team win a state title, another team be the state runner-up. So this one, he's expecting big things out of it, but they are 3 right now in the 2A East. They've been outscoring opponents 35-3. Average margin of victory is over 5 goals a game. They opened the season. This is impressive. Now, who was it you talked about? Mintz said that they're not scared to play anybody. Right. Clinton Soccer, I would say, it would be about in the same light. They opened the season with 5 straight road games. Yep. And their first home game was this last Thursday. And coming up tonight, they play 2-2 East Bladen. So another one of those Bladen County schools that we talk about here on the program. But
and a big game will be Monday. They host James Keenan, who is 4-0. So that'll be 6:30 out at the Clinton Soccer Stadium Monday. But they are at East Bladen today. Then James Keenan, who's undefeated,
Clinton
6
Soccer
at 4-0.
Complex.
Griffin Williams and Oscar Adaziak, their leading goal scorers so far. C.B. Jordan is their assist leader. Louis Bartolome is their goaltender right now. And again, they've given up 3 goals so far in 6 games. Also in the Southeastern Athletic Conference play, then you've got 2 other teams with good non-conference starts so far. And we'll go to Midway next, who is at 4-1. They're at East Duplin today and Union Thursday. Then at Lakewood next Monday. They dropped their first one to Hopton this year, 1-0. They've now won 4 in a row since then.
Yeah, it says they got revenge on Hopton 8 days later, beating them 5-4. So, that rivalry's always been good in football, but a lot of people don't realize they have other rivalries, even though they're not in the same conference anymore on all other sports. And
we had a couple of good games with Midway last year with the high school team.
Yeah,
soccer.
Yeah, and it was a big challenge, and that's one reason why you talk about the non-conference schedule for Clinton. He has to, because the conference has not been very good soccer-wise. So strength of schedule and all, you have to schedule tough non-conference. But Midway gave them a great challenge. There was a tie out here. I remember watching that game last year, a tie out at Clinton High.
Big
and it was
crowd.
a huge yes. So Midway's out to a 4-1 start. Joshua Santillan, Luis Ferrido, their leading goal scorer so far. Jaden Espana Diaz, their assist leader. Also then Southeastern Athletic Conference play, West Bladen checks in at 4-1 as well, and they host East Columbus Thursday before they'll take about a week and a half break for conference, and plays will start the end of September. So West Bladen also at 4-1, which is a good start for them.
Yeah, they lost week 1 4-2 to North Brunswick. They haven't lost since. Their average margin of victory is between 4 and 5 goals, and so I believe you may have mentioned it too. They're hosting East Columbus Thursday.
Yeah. Christopher Ramirez Libra and Alejandro Lopez Sandoval, the leading goal scorers. Enrique Rodriguez Gonzalez, their assist leader, and Dylan Hernandez has done a good job in goal for them so far. Before we go to the Carolina 1A, Harrell's Christian Academy is 1-4 currently, and they are home Wednesday against Oakwood at 4:30, and then Epiphany will come up next week out of New Bern. That'll be a 4:30 start there, and Mintz currently is 1-3 as well. We'll transition to the Carolina 1A, and Lakewood right now. At non-conference-wise, Lakewood is the leading record at 3-1-1, and they're at Pender Thursday, which gave them their lone loss of the year. And then again, they'll host Midway next Monday.
Yeah, well, they're on a 2-game winning streak. They're outscoring opponents 22-10. They're ranked the number 5th team in the 1A East. They beat Lejeune 3-2 on August 29th, and then they. This is play at Pender on Thursday. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Play at Pender Thursday, who gave them the lone loss so far.
Yeah, I went to one of their games last week, and they went up 9-0. I think it was on East Columbus, and they called the game with 13 and a half minutes to go because it was just so bad. And they were a high-scoring offense, and their coach still, I talked to him after the game, and he still wasn't pleased. So it sounds like, they have a high expectation there at Lakewood as far as, the play and everything. Granted, it was a very hot day. I believe it was Tuesday or Wednesday of last week, and the sun was just – it seemed like there was a magnifying glass on that field. Like the referees were even calling breaks and action so that way everybody could get water in them. That's how bad it was out there. But, they have great expectations from their coach. And it sounds like next Monday is just going to be awesome for local sports because that Midway game between Midway and Lakewood is going to be fantastic soccer for anybody that goes out and watches that.
You mentioned like stopping the game. I think soccer now has a rule that is it 10-0. If you get up by 10 or more goals, they immediately stop. The game's over.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that I found that's wild. I mean, I know you get running clocks in football, you get running clocks in basketball, things like that. But to hear that soccer and Clinton, dating back to it, and I'm not just, but it just brought me up. Their women's soccer team, which we talk about some in the spring, and I'm sure as this show progresses, when we get into the spring and talk about other sports, I think they've only had in the history since they've been in this conference. The women's soccer team for Clinton has had running clocks on or game endings pretty much for all but like 1 or 2 conference games.
Oh, wow.
That's one of those stats you want to look up. They've scored double digits in just about every single conference game because the conference is just so poor.
It's weak.
It's so poor in women's soccer and in men's soccer as well. But
And then lastly, with that, Hopton checks in. You look at the record right now, 2-4-1. A couple things. One, they're coming off a state championship runner-up season last year, an excellent season there, and a few losses in terms of personnel. But when you look at their 4 losses this year, 2 of them come to a 7-0 Wallace Rose Hill team, and then 1 of their losses came to a 4-1 Midway team, and of course, their Midway's 1 loss was to Hopton, and Hopton's also beaten Pender, who is 5-2 currently. So they host Princeton this Wednesday, and then they're at East Bladen next Monday. So again, Hopton will be a factor in that Carolina 1A once it's all set.
Well, they got a new coach this year after a state championship run at Christian Vega, an alum, and so that's pretty cool. Anytime you get somebody who's a graduate of that school to come back and coach the sport that they played. That's also really cool. You can speak to everything. So Hopton is one of those schools that has really just progressed in soccer each and every single year. So look out for the Wildcats down there in Newton Grove.
Yeah, and their coach is young. He's younger than I am, so I think he has a bright future ahead of him with that program.
What are you, 12?
Yeah, I wish. I feel like I'm 50.
Yeah.
Union checks in at 1-4. They'll host Midway Wednesday. They have Trask this Thursday, that's who they beat for their lone win. And then lastly, East Bladen in the Waccamaw 1A, 2A. They currently sit at 2-2, and they've got a couple tough ones. They host Clinton today, and they host Hopton on Monday. Pender will be the team to beat in the Waccamaw 1A, 2A. We'll be back to wrap things up here on initial Pressbox Chatter after these messages. This is the Pressbox Chatter on Oldies 1170, Star Communication Channel 16, oldies1170.com, and the Mixler app.
The Pressbox Chatter brought to you in part by Crumpler Plastic Pipe Incorporated, agricultural drain systems, constructed wetlands, septic sewer drain pipes. For more information, call 910-525-4046 or log on to the website www.cpp-pipe.com.
Final segment here of Pressbox Chatter, and we thank everybody for tuning in tonight. However you did tune in, we'll be here every Tuesday. And again, I think it's a lot about mentioning the kids, all the I'll say young men and women. How about that? Playing these sports and the talents they display each week and the hard work they put in. That's what we're trying to bring you here with all the fall sports, all the different fall sports, and we'll have more results for tennis and cross country and get my other one here, women's golf coming up next week. Sorry about that. Some big games coming up this week. Again, football, you got all the teams in action this Friday. But with volleyball, tomorrow, Cape Fear at Midway should be a great one. And then next Monday, we mentioned it, Men's Christian Academy at Clinton on Monday. And then also on Monday in soccer, James Keenan and Clinton High. Both teams will probably be undefeated coming into that. And Midway at Lakewood. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
Man, there's just so much talent with all the kids that are in all different sports in this county. Pretty much every single day of the week, you can find a talented team at a bunch of different schools, and then in Cumberland County or in Bladen County as well.
Hardworking kids.
If you're looking for sports action in any type of avenue, there's ways to go do it. And that women's golf led by Eddie Gray, I mean, how could they not be successful? Or maybe we would be thinking the opposite with that. I don't know.
There you go. So, again, we'll tune in every Tuesday, and we'll keep you updated on all the sports, all the 6 sports that's going on in Sampson and Bladen County. Thanks for joining us. Brant Young from the Sampson Independent, Robert Hill Jr. from the Sampson Middle School, and Jonathan Griffin, Dark Horse voice of Dark Horse football. And Jeff Saab will be back next Tuesday, same time. And as Pressbox Chatter used to always end, we're going to end it the same way.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening, and we'll see you at the ball game.
The Pressbox Chatter Show on WCLN is brought to you in part by the Sampson Independent. Don't forget to tune in every Tuesday at 6 for the latest broadcast on 1170 AM, Star TV Channel 16, oldies1170.com, and the Mixler app. And remember, when it's time for sports, it's always time for the Pressbox Chatter Show.